Hello everyone, my name is Kitetsu and welcome back to my channel. So we've literally just had another article as expected on the Warhammer community website, and it gives us loads of details about the rules for Morathi. To be honest, at the moment I don't know what to make of these rules, because on one hand they're incredibly exciting and they've added stuff to Age of Sigmar that we have literally never seen before. But then on the other hand, it's kind of hard to tell exactly how good Morathi is going to be without seeing her full warscroll. That being said, I am actually quite surprised with how much detail they have given to us. The article previews her in both of her forms. The rules won't take too long for me to sort of summarise quickly, and then the tiny little bit of background information we get here does actually give us some new information. And to be honest, I've already written a script for a background story on Morathi based on who she was in the old world, as I told all of you guys I would do. With this new course I'm doing at the moment, I haven't had a chance to actually record that video, but I'm definitely still bringing it out. It seems like there was so many retcons and confusing rewrites to Morathi's story, so one thing I thought was really cool is it's completely official here that she's still very definitely in the lore was a secret worshipper of Slaanesh, because I don't know how true it is, but I heard they even tried to like retcon her Slaanesh worship out, but that's definitely still a thing. The other thing it tells us is that Malerion is 100% confirmed as Malekith. I know this debate has kind of been over for a long time because everyone just assumed that these were the same people, but to be honest, with how long a time period has passed between the old world and Age of Sigmar, and with Games Workshop's tendency to rewrite things like they have with Morathi, you just never know, until at least it is 100% confirmed, and now we know that they are the same person. As for why they've changed his name, no idea. Apparently some people have said it's to do with copyright, but to be honest, if they're still using it in this article, I have absolutely no idea why they changed his name. We already know that she's not a god and that she survived through sheer cunning, but I must admit, I do like the way they're keeping her character consistent. She has always been about the number one person, and that's herself, and nothing has changed here whatsoever. I do like the fact that of everyone in the old world, it was only Morathi who basically managed to survive those events through her own cunning, or at least she's the only person we know that's done that so far. But anyway, she's been so powerful that she has been a part of Sigmar's pantheon. But here's something I thought was hilarious. She abandons her former allies because she fails to manipulate them, and she even turns her back on Malerion in the end, who himself, we find out here, has gone to claim the Shadowlands of Ulgu and the capital of Drucheroth, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But obviously, now that Sigmar has reinvaded the realms, he is looking to reform that pantheon, and Morathi has kind of entered into an uneasy alliance with him. But what I find really funny here is that her ultimate aim is to seek revenge for those who have basically tormented or spurned her. So essentially, that means that she is peed off with everyone because she failed to manipulate them. So because she couldn't get her own way with them, and they kind of pushed her back and said, no, we know what you're doing here, we know your game, we know who you were, we know who you still are, because they weren't having any of her bribes and lies or whatever she was trying to sell to them, she's got really peed off with it and she wants revenge. So basically everything she's annoyed about seems to be her own doing. Then we get straight onto the rules. So first of all, as we said in the last video, you have to start her off in her High Oracle of Khaine form, which is basically her on-foot Elven Queen sort of form. And in that form, she only has 6 wounds. This is where we get one of the absolutely most insane abilities that I've ever seen in Age of Sigmar. She has the Heart of Khaine, which is basically what she is holding in her hand in her demon form. But I didn't realise the rules of that would be so damn good. It comes with a slight drawback, and that is that she can't be healed, but here's the cool thing. She cannot take more than 3 wounds in one turn. That counts for mortal wounds too. So if you think about how fragile some of these characters actually are in the game. I was playing a game the other day with Archaon in it, and I more or less wiped him off the board with the combined efforts of a Spirit of Durthu and Kurnoth Hunters with bows. It was absolutely painful to watch how much damage he took in a turn. With Morathi, she can only take a maximum of 3 wounds, which is absolutely awesome. It's probably one of the coolest abilities in the game, and it's going to make her so durable. So obviously I had to talk about that rule first, but then she also has another rule which I really like because it harks back to her character in the old world, and that is Enchanting Beauty, where you subtract 1 from the hit rolls of any attacks that target her. So again, it's all about adding all of this durability to her. She may only have 6 wounds, but with that kind of protection, she's at least going to stay on the board for 2 turns minimum. On top of that, she has an amazing command ability. Like, how many characters are there in Age of Sigmar who have terrible command abilities? And I just have no idea why. The whole point of taking a character is that they're meant to be useful, and they should not be wasting any space on their war scroll. What Worship Through Bloodshed lets you actually do is pick 2 friendly Daughters of Khaine units within 14 inches, and they can immediately shoot as if they were in the shooting phase, which basically means you can have units of archers shooting twice in a turn, which is potentially brutal, depending on how good some of the archers are that are going to come out. Alternatively, if either unit is within 3 inches of an enemy unit, it can instead be chosen to pile in and attack as if it was in the combat phase. So again, it reminds me a little bit of Korgos Kull's ability, where he can pile in and attack twice in a turn, and yeah, just having abilities that can do that sounds really good. You should be able to keep Morathi alive to be able to use those abilities too. And at any point you can transform her into her Shadow Queen form, which doubles her wounds. And the great thing there is once she is in this form, she actually keeps the ability of the Iron Heart of Khaine. So here is the kind of profile. Let me see if I can just zoom in on this a little bit. This is where I said we don't even know exactly how good her figure's going to be, because we have no idea what her move characteristic is, and everything really on her damage output depends on how many attacks she'll make with heartrender. And while Envenomed Tail is only a single attack, if it does a huge amount of damage, then potentially that could be really good too, but I guess we'll just have to see. But either way, she has a ranged attack that hits on a 2, and I'll talk about what that does in a second. She has Heartrender, which is her spear from the world that was, which is really cool. We don't know how many attacks it will make, but it hits and wounds on 3s. It's -2 rend, which is fantastic, and 3 damage a piece, which is brilliant. But again, it just depends on how many attacks she makes with it. Her Crown of Serpents is pretty decent. It's nothing too special, but it's almost like you've got a very small unit of 5 models making single attacks, because they hit and wound on 3s and they do a single damage with no rend. And then you've got that tail, which, as I said, is 1 attack, hits and wounds on a 3, but you do have a really good -2 rend again, and we have no idea on the damage. As for her ranged attack, I initially thought it was really disappointing, because, as I said, it's a single attack hitting on a 2, and what you do is, if you hit a target, you pick a model in that unit, roll a dice, and if the dice exceeds that model's wound characteristic, it is slain. And on the surface that sounds absolutely amazing, but then I thought, well, you're probably only going to be using that against small units of enemies, and in that case you're probably going to kill a single model with maybe 1 or 2 wounds. And I was thinking, well, what's the point? But then I thought, actually, what it says above here is really interesting, because you can basically snipe standard bearers, hornblowers, and any model of interest within a unit. You actually choose the target model, rather than the enemy allocating the wound to a model of their choice as usual. You pick, and therefore if there's an army that's trying to exploit their banner bearers or something like that, you can just take those straight out of the unit. So that's really cool. And then on the flip side, if you've got some more powerful sort of mid-range special infantry that have 3 wounds each, like Putrid Blight Kings for example, I think they have 3 wounds each, it's not going to be that difficult to roll a 4+ and actually just kill one of them straight away. So again, I think this is a much better ability, or should I say attack, than I was expecting. But yeah, obviously we know that if you take damage with her in her high oracle form, we obviously know that there's a chance the damage will make her transform into her Shadow Queen form. But I think there's going to be this really interesting dynamic of using her character and trying to decide which form to use her in, because although she's weak in her oracle form, her command ability is so good, and she's got that extra protection and durability to make it worth the risk of fielding her for a while and using her on those key units at the right moments, and then later on transforming her into her Shadow Queen form. That's the way I would want to play her. On the flip side, you can try and make the most of her Iron Heart of Khaine ability and transform her immediately, and therefore she's going to be on the board for a minimum of 4 turns. And that's no small claim for something in Age of Sigmar, to say that it's guaranteed to be there for 4 turns. Obviously, those special abilities, like it says at the bottom, the one Nagash has with his Hand of Dust, could potentially kill her in a single turn. So she's not immune to stuff like that, but even so, they're saying she might be the most durable unit in Age of Sigmar, and I must admit that definitely seems to be the case. At first I thought, well, she's only got 12 wounds in her Shadow Queen form, but just knowing that her Iron Heart of Khaine ability definitely transforms across to both forms, like, that changes everything. But anyway, that is a look at the rules for Morathi. We are going to see a little bit more about the Melusai, if I'm saying that right, tomorrow, who are the chosen guard and hidden spies of the Shadow Queen. So I imagine that's going to be like the Medusa-like snake people, who I think can have either the close combat roles or the bows, depending on how you build them. The very last thing I'll say is there have been leaked prices apparently, and I don't know if these are real or not, but apparently the release on Saturday is going to have the Battle Tome, the War Scroll cards, the dice, and Morathi, and apparently the other units are going to come slightly later. But the Battle Tome apparently is going to be £25, the War Scroll cards 15, the dice are going to be £12.50, and Morathi, as I expected, is £80. So, you know, not cheap, but then you are getting 2 models and a highly detailed and really cool kit. So I'm not going to get into the debate of whether it's worth it. That's kind of for you guys to decide. And I left a reply to someone's comment earlier just saying, to be honest, does it make you happy? Yes or no? That's for you to decide. And very lastly, before I disappear, I don't know if any of you guys saw this image on the Warhammer Facebook page, but it just confirmed what I've been saying for months now, that we basically have 4 different groups of elves in Age of Sigmar. We've got Alariel, we've got Morathi, Tyrion and Teclis, and Malerion. And this picture just talks about all of those different factions, and it gives us more evidence that it's not going to be too long before we can expect to see Tyrion and Teclis and Malerion. But I'll leave this image here just for you to pause and read it if you haven't seen it. And anyway, thank you so much for your support. Don't forget to like the video, and if you are new, hit that subscribe button, and you can support me on my Patreon. The link is in the description. But until next time, stay awesome, and I will see you really soon.